everybody, it's John and Ronnie. We're here tonight for one of our discussions. Want to tell them what we're going to discuss tonight, babe?
This is our paranormal video, strange events and things that have happened to us that we cannot explain sometimes.
But before we get to that, what do we want to do?
Please like, share, and subscribe.
Thank you very much. And now on to the video. So John brought this up because, we didn't want to make it seem like we're a bunch of crazy people talking about the paranormal and things like that. But if you're like me, I grew up in a family where they always, like when I was a kid, forget going to haunted houses and places like that. My grandparents, my great-grandmother and my grandmother was always talking about spirits and people visiting them and having discussions with people. And when you're a kid growing up in that type of household, you are scared to death. I remember being scared to death of ghosts anytime anybody talked about stuff like that, but it was normal conversation for them. Now, I don't know about your household. I mean, how'd that go with your household?
I don't know. They always had some kind of crazy story about somebody coming to visit that wasn't invited.
Well, in my case, my great-grandmother said she was always visited by her mother. So if her mother, and when she says visit, she doesn't mean like a dream sequence, or she didn't mean like a dream sequence or anything like that. She said that she would wake up and her mother would be sitting on the bed and having a conversation with her. Now, as I grew older, I had to kind of take that with a grain of salt and be like, was she really doing that? Or was my great-grandmother having a dream and it came to her in the dream sequence? But when she told us, me and my cousins, when she told us this growing up, sometimes I was actually scared to go to sleep in that house, even though I'd never seen anything in the house, because she always explained it that way. And I thought, oh my God, I don't want to wake up and see somebody I don't know, or somebody dead sitting on the bed trying to have a conversation with me. But this is what she said. And my grandmother too. And that was like, in that case, that was her grandmother that came to visit her. But the weird thing about this is when they had these visitations, it was always something going on in the family. So in the case where my great-grandmother's mother would visit her and have these conversations with her, she would say, Ruth, look here, something's going to happen here, or whatever. And she would, the next morning or next day, she would tell us about it. And, we'd sit there and she'd say, yeah, my mother came, she told me this, look for this to happen, look for that to happen. Again, as a kid, you kind of brush it off. But like when I became a teenager, I started listening to these things. And she said, yeah, something's going to happen with such and such, or such and such is going to have a baby, and such and such is going to get sick. And I'd be damned if these things didn't come true. And that scared the shit out of me. It really did, because I thought, oh my God, what the hell is going on with my family? Some kind of psychics or something. But when I was growing up, I told my great-grandmother, I said, or even my grandmother, I said, when you guys pass, I said, don't come back to me that way. If you are going to visit me to tell me anything, make it be in some kind of dream, because it was scared the living hell out of me if I woke up one night to see them sitting on the side of the bed trying to have a conversation with me. And I don't know why that would just bother me, because my great-grandmother was my heart. So if I could have a conversation with her again, I would love that. I just know it would just scare me to the core if it was in that fashion. So suffice to say that when I have dreams about my great-grandmother, I know there's something going on in the household. Like I'll have a dream about her, and more than likely it would be something that's going on with my Aunt Pearl, which is my mom's sister. Something's going on in the family there. Sure enough, it would be something going on. So that's kind of how the communication goes. And I don't know what to say about that paranormal, because I'm the world's biggest skeptic. I'm always trying to debunk things or come up with logical conclusions as to why things happen. But sometimes things are just beyond explanation, and sometimes things just happen the way they do. So that was kind of what happened when I was growing up. What about you, babe?
I don't know. You just scared me now. I'm afraid to keep going.
I'm gonna tell a story. Don't be a big baby. This was his subject, and you know what? He deserves it because
this is actually. I think this is a good topic, though. This is something different off the norm.
Yeah, it is. And John loves to be scared. He's always watching some goofy, scary movie or whatever. So go ahead and tell your story.
Okay, so I got a couple good stories. At least I think they're good. Years ago, when my grandmother, she was getting up there in years, she was probably up, I would say probably like mid-80s. She started to have problems as far as with her memory and stuff like that. And then I think dementia started to set in. So my dad tried every way to keep her in a home. In her current home, he brought in people to take care of her. That didn't work out. A lot of the people that he brought in, they would steal from her. One woman tried to clean out her basement. He didn't ask her to clean out the basement. She just started cleaning it out for him, taking everything she could out in bags. He came in one day, and the woman actually had my grandmother tied to a chair with towels around her. And that's a true story.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and where was she? She was in the basement helping cleaning out the basement.
See that? Did they call the cops?
No, my dad wound up letting her go, but he tried everything to keep my grandmother from going into a home, and it was just didn't work. Be honest with you, there are a lot of women who would actually could take on taking care of an older person, but my mom really wasn't one of them, so that really didn't work. So finally my dad came to the point where he just had to put my grandmother into a home. He put her into the home. I guess she lived in the home probably about maybe 6 months, and then she wound up passing away. The home that he put her in, I guess because she gave him a hard time about getting out of bed. So what wound up happening, and I think they call that, what's that, pneumonia? She actually had a buildup of fluid in her lungs, and she passed away. Well, my dad lived in the Northeast where I lived for years. I used to go over his house on a regular basis, and we would go down. He had a little bar in the basement. We'd go down there and drink. And one night he told me he just felt so guilty for putting my grandmother in a home because he felt like he killed my grandmother by putting her in the home. And I told him at the time, I said, Dad, I know your mom didn't feel that way. And I told him, I said, you shouldn't feel that way either. So what had happened, long story short, I get a call one day from him, and he says, you're not going to believe what happened. And I said, what's that? He says, the phone rang like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I picked up the phone, and as I picked up I went to reach over to pick up the phone, and the answer machine, because he had an answer machine on his phone up in his bedroom, picked it up before he could get the phone to his ear. So he just let it go into the recording. So basically, he says that he heard my grandmother's voice on the recording, and she said, Jack, it's okay. So at first I was thinking, like Ronnie says, we try to debunk things. We figure, yeah, we're Irish, we like to drink a little bit, that kind of stuff plays into this. My mom very rarely, if ever, has ever drank. And she was laying in bed with my dad. She heard him when he hit the play button. She heard the voice come on there and say, Jack, it's okay. And she swears, too, that it was my grandmother's voice. Nobody else in the family ever heard it because he got all nervous when he heard it and tried to hit the rewind playback button, and instead he deleted it. So, like I said, the only two people who heard that was my dad and my mom, and they both swear that was my grandmother's voice. And it will probably, in a way, if you believe it, that was my grandmother telling my dad that it was okay not to carry that guilt around with him. So like I said, if it wasn't that my mom was in the bed and she heard it too, she doesn't drink, she don't take no drugs, then I would be like, okay, Dad, you just having a bad dream. But because two people heard it, I gotta believe. So that's my grandmother ghost story.
I can believe that because I can believe you can be so, you have feelings and you got to kind of step outside the realm and if you really do believe this, I do believe that there are higher planes and there are ways of communicating. And I think if your dad was feeling really bad about it, I do believe that his mom would have tried to come back in some kind of way to let him know that it was okay. Because I can remember, like I said, my great grandmother was the salt. I mean, she was the rock in the family. And when she passed away, everything just died. It really did. And it was like no one knew what to do. She was always the headliner for the holidays. She did everything for everybody. And I can remember, I think the day that she passed away, she did like a full load of laundry. She did all this stuff. And it's funny how when you sit back and like we talked about it afterwards, because I think that day or that week, like I think she knew that day. I don't know if it was that day, but I think it was one of the days during the week. She told my uncle, they were sitting down having coffee or whatever, and she said to him, she said, I'm not going to be here. Not like, forever, that type of thing. But she said, I'm not going to be here to do these things. And my uncle said, because her kids called her by her name. And I think my uncle said, Ruth, what are you talking about? And she said, Morris, I'm telling you, I'm not going to be around. And it's like she was trying to prepare him. And sure enough, she passed away that week. But she did like a full load of laundry. She was putting curtains up in his room the day that she passed away. And I remember, like, I would go like in her bedroom, because she had this old-fashioned like dresser with the mirror and the dressers on the side. It had to be from like the early 1900s or whatever. Really nice old-fashioned antique dresser. And I used to go in there to do my hair, because it was the only big mirror like in the house where you could just sit there, and it's like a vanity and everything. So I'd go in there and do my hair. I think my mom, everybody went in there to do their hair. It was just her room. And I can remember after she passed, I went in to do my hair, and I was sitting at the dresser, and I don't know what, I was so upset. I just started crying my eyes out. I was literally just overtaken with emotion. And as I'm sitting there, all of a sudden, I just got this warmth that came over me, like somebody was giving me a big hug. I can't explain it to this day. I mean, I was literally crying, like screaming, and it just came over me, and I'm like, and I just immediately stopped crying. And I'm like, wow, what was that? And I just felt her presence. So that's the only time, like I said, I didn't want to have no conversations with her. But I think she knew I was so upset. That was her way of calming me down, because I immediately calmed down and I stopped crying. And I was like, and I don't know, to this day, I can't explain it. And I just know that was her, letting me know it was, okay or whatever. So I do believe that when you're feeling a certain kind of way, and those who have passed on, that they can come back to make you feel a little better or whatever. I kind of do believe that, and I know now I remember, again, ghost stories, man. They didn't know how to tell
a lot of scary stories.
They didn't know how to tell those good stories. It's always these ghost stories, because my mom and my Aunt Pearl, I swear that my Aunt Cora, which was my mom's, my grandmother's sister, swore her house was haunted. So her and my Aunt Pearl would stay, and I mean, up until like I was in my 20s or whatever, we always went down to my Aunt Cora's house, but in the back of my mind, I can remember these stories when I was a kid, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna stay over her house at night. They swear that there was a ghost in her house, and it was a ghost of a white man in her house.
Why is it gotta be a white man?
Because they said he was white. I don't know what made them think that. That's just what they said. So I'm assuming they said it because they saw him. Now, I don't know if you want to say all ghosts are white. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't believe that. But I'm just saying.
You don't believe all ghosts are white?
No. I'm just saying, I don't believe in the Casper ghost theory.
No, okay.
So I just think that for whatever reason, they knew probably the guy that owned the house before her was white, and they think that he was still haunting her house, because both my mom and my aunt said that they saw it. And I trust my mom when she says stuff like that. So them telling me that, I was like, I'm not staying the night in my uncle's house. Y'all can say whatever you want to. I'll stay in. My cousins lived a couple of doors down. I'll stay with them. Or I had cousins who lived around the corner. I'll stay with them. Once you tell me a house is haunted, I'm not staying there. So I just, you grow up in that type of household. You just learn to maybe try to stay away from ghosts.
Stay away from ghosts.
Yeah.
Some ghosts are your friends. Some aren't.
That's what they say. I haven't ran across any malevolent type, figures or whatever, but I don't know. Malevolent.
Yeah. We don't care what his religion is, baby.
But you stop
He's
it.
a ghost.
Anyway, go on and tell some more of your stories.
Okay.
You got a lot more than I do.
I got a couple.
Always told me ghost stories, but he's got a lot of them.
So my great what was that, grandmother?
Great-great-grandmother.
Great-great-great-grandmother.
I don't think it was 3.
Patio Sleeman. Can I do the Irish accent? No.
Please don't.
Okay. So anyway.
You know what? Go ahead. And let the people see, and then
Patio Sleeman.
Don't do it.
Okay. So anyway, my great-great-great-great-great-grandma.
It's 2.
Okay. So my uncle tells the story that she was probably up around your grandmom's age, probably up in her 80s, and she was in there they had a lot of kids there that day in the home, and there was a knock at the door. Well, she went to the door, and my uncle was younger at the time, of course. He said, Grandma, he says, who was at the door? And she says, I don't know. He says he was just in a black suit, but I couldn't see his face, and he didn't say anything. So she closed the door, went on basically her merry way, so to speak, and then the next day they found her. She was basically dead in bed. So, as a lot of the family members like to think, now is it true? Who knows? But they feel like the Grim Reaper that day came for her, and that was basically why she passed away the next day. It's kind of a little funny story, I guess, that the man was all in black and she couldn't see his face. And that's basically, when my uncle told me, I guess this was probably about 6, 8, 10 years ago, that's one of them stories that just kind of sticks in your head, But that was a little bit of an eerie story, I must say so myself.
I'll say. But again, you hear the stories and it's like, oh.
But the next story is a real good one. Because Ronnie don't mess with no Ouija boards.
Listen, I'm just saying, again, I have a very logical mind, but that logical mind also tells me you don't F around with things that you have no business or don't understand how they work. I had friends when I was growing up, they had a Ouija board, and it was like, come on, play with it. Even then, I'm like, no, I'm not playing around with a Ouija board. I'm sorry.
Well, this story is a good story because everybody can associate with this next story I'm going to tell, because everybody's got one dumbass in the family. In our family, we got my sister. Yes, as you know from prior videos, we don't really get along. We don't like one another. So I'm not going to hurt her feelings by calling her a dumbass. So basically, her and my cousin, she could be qualified or classified as another dumbass. They decide that they're going to get a Ouija board. They take it to my dad's house. Now, I was still currently living there at the time. They got to do this Ouija board in the basement, right? So then they basically go upstairs, and you know how women all like to crowd around and go to the bathroom at the same time. I don't know what the deal, why women always like to use the bathroom at the same time.
Not in a house. If you go to a club or something.
They both went upstairs to use the bathroom. So as they're passing my room, has to be my room, can't be anybody else's room, they see the silhouette of a body looking out the window in my room. Okay? Again, certain amount of dumbasses in one family you're just going to have to live with. So, then they should keep this to themselves, but they ain't going to keep it to themselves.
Of course not.
They're going to tell me, do you know, now, this actually traumatized me. You know, a 26-year-old man should not have to sleep in bed with a goddamn sheet over his head. You know? I tell you what, that was some scary shit.
Really?
Yeah. Well, finally, after 26, I didn't sleep with the sheet over my head, but that was just beside the point.
Again. Yeah, don't mess around with stuff like that. I do believe that you can mess around with things and open up gateways and, you know, crap like that. And John, I always tell John, because John thought, we had this neighbor that moved in about...
What neighbor?
I'm talking about Rob. He's a couple of doors down. He used to live...
He's not a ghost?
No, but I'm going to tell the story.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Kind of similar to... If people believe in ghosts, or they may be, you know, believing in roots and things like that. Okay, so... He bought a house. They used to live up the street in one of the duplexes. And the house came up for sale and he moved further down. So, long story short, he moves in with his wife. And... like I said, this is kind of similar. I don't even know why I'm bringing this up.
What's her?
The Roots.
No, what's her name? Sally Rutabaker.
No. Her name was Leslie. So they've since got divorced. But when they moved in, she came over and knocked at the door. So when John met Rob, they hit it off. And, you know, they was like, hey, buddy, you know, like they're long lost friends. So I thought, oh, he's married. This will be a couple for us to hang around with. So I guess after they moved in later on the week or a couple of days, she comes down, she introduces herself. So she rings the bell, I open the door and start talking. She's, oh, Leslie, I'm Rob's wife, blah, blah, blah. We start having a conversation. Now, the first thing that this woman does is she starts telling me what she won't do and will do. So she's like, yeah, you know, because I was saying, oh, you know, John and, you know, your husband are hitting off, you know, maybe we can hang out sometime or whatever. I'm not in and out of people's houses like that. I took a step back and I'm like, okay. She's like, I'm just letting you know that. I don't, you know, I move in. I don't be hanging around in neighbors' houses and doing all that kind of stuff. I said, okay.
Is this where you call it a heifer?
I said, okay, that's fine. I didn't call her a heifer to her face. I said, well, that's fine, you know, because... And she says, you know, because I just don't do that. I said, well, listen, Leslie, just because John and your husband are friends doesn't mean we have to be friends. And I said, clearly, by you coming and saying that, we're probably not going to be friends. I said, so I don't have a problem with that. I just thought that because they seem to hit it off, you know, maybe we could do things as a couple. I said, but we don't have to, trust me. And then she starts making some kind of comment about, and what are you going to do about that bush in front of your house? And I said, what do you mean? Well, I mean, we cut down the bushes in front of our house. I mean, that thing is really big. What are you going to do about it? I said, I'm not going to do anything about it. It's going to stay exactly where it's been since I moved in the house. I said, I don't really see what you cutting down your bushes really have to do with us cutting down our bushes. I said, but I can see one thing. I can see why you're not in and out of people's houses. Really, probably because of your attitude. I said, so, you know, thanks for coming over. Have a nice night. And I slammed the door in her face. Now, not long after that, she started bringing over, she worked at Sam's or BJ's.
Yeah.
She started bringing over food. And I'm like, okay, first of all, this woman let us know right from the get-go. She wasn't trying to be friends or hang out with us or whatever. I told John at that time, I said, she's rooting Rob. Now, he didn't know what roots was. I said, roots is a southern thing. It's like Louisiana, probably. I don't know if it really started there. I said, but most black people know about being rooted. And I said, because I had an uncle who was, and I saw the results of this. Now, again, you can look at it like, is that something paranormal? Probably not, because it's probably more psychological that somebody's doing something to you and they're giving you something that is making you have some kind of psychotic breakdown. I can believe. I
would say that's more voodoo.
Well, if you believe it, if you want to call it voodoo, call it voodoo. But I'm saying we call it roots. And that's what she was doing to him. And people don't believe that, but that stuff is real. I'm telling you. So I told John, because John will eat anything. And I said, John,
especially cheesecake.
shut up. I said, John, when she brings over that stuff to you, I said, don't eat that stuff. I said, because this woman stood in my face and said she wasn't trying to be down with being friends or do anything. And then the next thing you know, next couple weeks, she bringing over a whole bunch of food? No. And I said, you see how Rob acts a certain way, and then all of a sudden, he's like a complete opposite. I said, everybody's not bipolar. I said, she's doing something to him. I had an aunt that did it to my cousin, or I had an aunt, a cousin did it to my cousin. So she was the wife, and she definitely did stuff to him. I also had somebody do something to my core, which I witnessed. That was crazy. So yeah, I don't know what these people are doing, but again, things you don't know about, Ouija boards, roots, stay away from all that kind of stuff, because people might not believe it, but that stuff is real. So again, my logical mind says you can think I'm crazy all you want to, but that stuff is real. And I told John, because John was about to break up with the stuff and eat, I said, don't do that. I said, she doesn't like us, so she's not going to be putting something in my food like she's doing with her husband. Because the thing with my cousin was, he was being controlled, and the minute she stopped putting stuff in his food, he was a totally different person. I had a friend, brother was the same way. He was definitely being rooted. So again, people, it doesn't fall on the side of paranormal activity, but I had to throw that in there because I know there's some people out there know what I'm talking about. And there's people out there that are rooting people that know what I'm talking about. And there are people out there that have been rooted that know what I'm talking about. And I think everybody in their family knows somebody, a friend of a friend, a family member, cousin, whatever, has had that done to them. Truthfully. Real talk with that. So that's all I'm going to say about the roots, because I don't eat everybody's food. But like I said, John was about to chow down. I'm like, don't eat that.
Yeah, Ronnie told me, give it to the birds. My one bird stood on his head for like 6 days in a row.
I told him to throw it out, because I thought, to me, that was just, and it was so obvious, because, she was acting like she did not like us at all. Then all of a sudden, you want to start feeding us? Girl, I don't know what that craziness.
She was just giving away free food, Ronnie.
No.
Don't be suspicious.
You better be suspicious. Listen, you have people always say, I don't eat everybody's cooking. I don't eat everybody's food. There's a reason for that. And it's not just because people do nasty stuff at home. You don't know what people put in your food. You better be careful.
People do nasty stuff in restaurants too.
I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be rooted. Come burying something in my front lawn and all that kind of stuff. No.
Burying something in your front lawn.
That's usually how the roots go. Sometimes they bury stuff, or they bury things in your lawn or whatever to put these spells on.
So basically, rooting is a lot like being a landscaper. We're always burying stuff in people's lawns.
I'm just saying, you would be. I always tell John, it's a good thing he met me, because he would have been out here in these streets in a lot of trouble. I'm telling you, he's so brand new, and he just would have been really caught up in a lot of nonsense if he had met me, truthfully. So,
I think we're good with the paranormal stories tonight. I think we're good with the
paranormal that seeped over into roots, but to me, it's all kind of craziness. So it all goes hand in hand. But I hope you guys enjoyed just talking about this, because, like I said, I think everybody probably has some kind of paranormal story that wasn't too sure about if something happened, or not so sure if you saw something out of the corner of your eye, you wasn't quite sure what that was, if it was indeed a ghost or just your imagination. So,
and if you guys got stories, I would like to hear them. Email us a couple of them.
Email us, or definitely comment with your ghost stories, or your paranormal stories, or your rooted stories, because I know y'all out there got some of those.
Nothing too scary, because remember, I did sleep with sheets over my head till being 26. So.
Or you're gonna have him running upstairs in the bedroom, slamming the door, talking about the boogans. So
no, we won't talk about them.
I think I mentioned that.
Babe, I'm definitely not sleeping on the sofa tonight. I'm going to be upstairs with you, sweetie.
I'm saying he falls asleep on the sofa watching some scary story, and then he runs up in the middle of the night, closes the door, talking about the boogans. and I'm like, John, why are you closing the door? Do you not think if there's a ghost, he's gonna come through the door? Someone's chasing you.
Everybody knows that the boogans don't know how to open up the door.
Truthfully, I don't know what the boogans.
Look, first of all, if he was a ghost, how's he gonna open up the door with a handle? He ain't got no hands.
So
he got a ghostly shape.
You don't think that they?
He's like a mist.
You don't think they come through the door?
Not through my door.
I think so. Yeah. All right. So on that note, on the boogans note, we're gonna end this video. But again, we want to say thank you so much for watching. Subscribe,
share, and subscribe.
And
said it backwards.
Whatever. I said it. So so again, we hope you like our video, and we hope you enjoyed it. Just a little bit of humor in our fashionable way. So yeah, we thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Say good night.
Good night.
Bye. Oh, peace and love.
God bless you all.